All right. Happy Halloween, everybody. Thank you guys for hanging out with us for a Taking It Back. I'm with Zach Payne of Red Pill 78. Zach, loving the Miami Vice get up, brother. Looks good.
Hey man, I got to stay true to form. If there was ever a costume that I would dress up in, it's got to be this.
Love it.
Yeah,
That's awesome. Are you doing anything for Halloween or are you just having some fun here on your stream?
just having some fun on the stream because I'm going to be live when kids are coming up to trick or treat. So basically, no, not doing anything. Lisa and I are going to get dinner and spend some quality time.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice. Well, awesome to be here with you. Live chat. Thank you guys for all tuning in. If you're watching on the Badlands Media Rumble channel, please give us a thumbs up as you file in. Those of you guys over on pill.net, red pill, and repost the show. And yeah, Zach, it's last time we're probably going to talk before election night. It's been a hell of a week, hell of a weekend leading into this show, honestly. But things seem to be trending in the right direction right now, man. Just overall vibes. How you feeling?
I'm feeling really good about the way things are going, dude. I mean, President Trump. Well, there's just there's too much to even say. I guess all I can say is I believe that we are going to take back the White House. I can't tell you exactly what that's going to look like, but I think that it will equal tremendous, overwhelming support from the vast majority of Americans, which lead to a successful taking back of the White House in America, and we're going to make America great again. And the guilty are going to not go unpunished. People are going to get exactly what they deserve, and the people who turned on their country are going to be treated like traitors.
Man, from your lips to God's ears, man. I sure hope so. But I mean, you look at the polling, you look at what the campaigns are doing, and the early returns on the early vote look really great. For Donald Trump and the Republicans. You have him leading the early vote in New Jersey. You have Kamala Harris removing funds from North Carolina, just giving up on the state and diverting it to Virginia, which is interesting.
Where Donald Trump is also looking like he's going to take it as well, which is like, unprecedented. That's Spook City.
Yeah, it's wild. You have within the margin of error, you're seeing a lot of polls within the margin of error, places like New Hampshire, Maine, New Mexico, Minnesota, the longest, Democratic stronghold up there in the North Midwest. It seems like there's massive shift to the right nationwide.
Yes, there is. And in Minnesota in particular, I have a contact there and was just speaking with them about the polling they've got. And word on the street is that the mainstream media is showing that Kamala is up by 8%, which I believe the margin of error is going to be like 3 to 4%. So she would be up by just a hair. But internal polling for the Harris team is showing she and Trump in a dead heat at 50-50, which means that it's definitely not a sure thing, no matter how you slice it. And that Islamic vote, the Muslim vote, is going to account for a large portion of that. But then, of course, you've got a lot of people in Minnesota who absolutely hate Tim Walz. I've got this interview that I've been waiting to drop with a former business owner in Minnesota that was targeted by Tim Walz and Keith Ellison. And it's finally going to drop tomorrow at 5 p.m. And, this woman's experience and the experience of so many patriotic Americans across Minnesota, it's just devastating what those people did to that state.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's just a major backlash coming. It's been building for a long time. And the beautiful thing is too is they don't have the mail-in ballot request to even remotely do what they did last time, by making us wait for days and days and days while, they figure out a way to kind of fill the gap. So I think that, you as long as these margins and that's what Kash Patel was saying on the show a couple of days ago was that, if the
Oh, yeah,
margin.
congratulations, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But he basically said, look, you get your margin above the outstanding mail-in vote, and it's over. There's really nothing they can do at that point, because obviously they can't bring back more votes than they sent out. And I think that's kind of what, swamped the vote, too big to rig is all about is, overcoming that delta. And
Mhm.
I think we're on our way there.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I was talking about this on the show yesterday. I mean, there's been such an emphasis that President Trump and others in, the greater conservative world have put on voting early. I mean, traditionally we haven't done that. The Democrats have always done that. That creates a psychological barrier when you see that Democrats have, this large outstanding vote total before we even get there. And so that creates a suppression effect. But it also, in this instance, with us coming out early, it creates the same thing on their end. I think that they fully understand that they're losing, that DEI is killing them, that the non policy word salad, empty headed antics of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are not resonating with people. And they're going to see us overwhelming the vote, making it too big to rig. And then on top of that, what if we have so many votes before we even get to election day that the amount of votes that are left are not enough to overcome what we've already put into practice, which means that the race is run before we even the race is won before we even get to election day. Now, the only thing I'm worried about are those UOCAVA ballots, which undoubtedly there is going to be legal challenges to those ballots. But the Democrats have made it open that they're hoping to bring in 9 million overseas ballots. And there's not even 9 million people that are U.S. citizens that exist overseas. So, I think they're going to have a hard time justifying the ballots that we get in because those people are not going to line up with the real numbers.
Yeah, I think so too. And I mean, yeah, 9 million votes seems extremely high. What is the number? Do you know the actual number of U.S. citizens living outside the United States? And how do they even attribute those to a specific state? If they're not living in a state, why would they get to contribute towards, a state's election? I don't. It doesn't seem to make any sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense. So you've got right around 4 million servicemen and women, family members, and relatives that are living like on base. But added to that, you've also got expats. So people who still maintain U.S. citizenship, but they just choose to live in another country. So they would go to their state of origin or their last residential address. And many of those people, if they're living overseas, I mean, they may not even have a U.S. address. So they're going to like have to find a U.S. address to use. But the real problem is that there's no verification process. I mean, you could literally be a citizen of another country, Australia, Belgium, Amsterdam, and you go onto the UOCAVA system, you request a ballot for Mickey Mouse at 123 Main Street in Tempe, Arizona, and it's going to give you a ballot. And then you can go ahead and vote with that ballot and then send it in. So, I mean, like, there's no way that those ballots are going to go unchallenged. And, based upon all of the records, the most number of registered Democrats that likely you would see would be something close to 1.8 million. And that's like if we're going 50-50 between the number of known total American citizens living overseas and the likelihood of them being a Democrat.
Yeah, I would assume that this is going to be challenged, and we've seen some encouraging things so far, Zach. There's been a number of issues, one in Michigan with a bunch of duplicate votes, and then some issues in Pennsylvania as well. The RNC on top of it very quickly. I think the issue in Michigan, I mean, it was resolved within a few hours of
Mhm.
it. It's just like night and day with this new leadership at the RNC. Like Laura Trump is on top of it. The whole mechanics behind preserving some integrity in this election from the RNC is night and day different than what we saw in Iran and McDaniel. They actually
Yeah.
seem to be proactive instead of completely reactionary. I always talk about Pennsylvania in 2020, how they had Republicans locked out of the vote counting rooms for almost like a full day after
Mhm.
the 4 a.m. drops to boot, where they already jammed a bunch in before a
Yep.
single lawyer was even there to even try to get an injunction. At that point, the damage was already done. There was really no
Yeah.
going back. This time,
They handled business in Bucks County. You
yeah,
know, I mean, like on it, like a fly on shit, and immediately took those people to task, got the extended early voting 3 days, made sure that anybody that was in line was not going to be shut out, that the offices were going to be open as long as they said they were. It really was like just a revelation compared to what we saw back in 2020. I mean, you know, I knew that it was going to be like this, but a lot of people were very doom and gloom about it. You know, like I mean, I'm sure you saw Emerald Robinson on.
oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she was, you know, talking all kinds of shit. Oh, the RNC is not doing anything, and Michael Watley's a piece of shit, and you know, I mean, Lara Trump doesn't care. But it's obvious that it's a completely different world now.
Yeah, yeah. And look, right, a lot of people rightfully so were kind of doom and gloom. What we saw in 2020 was just absolutely like
Yeah,
cartoonish. But again, you have to look at just the entire environment then versus now, the shift in demographics that you're seeing in the polls. And again, like this mail-in voting phenomena, while it's still being used, it was a whole different thing in 2020.
yeah,
You're talking less than half, less than even 30% of the ballots requested for mail-in voting versus what we saw in 2020, which is when these margins are so small. You combine all these little factors, the major shift in Black men, the Latino population in general, Catholics shifting back to to the Republican side. You have massive shifts in almost every major demographic. I just saw another poll, like even with women, Harris is only up like 3 points. I mean, that's within the margin of error, even with women, which is supposed to be
yeah.
her bread and butter. She's losing the entire coalition over there, and it really seems like the collapse of the Democrat Party as a whole, Zach. I mean, their whole
It does.
thing was like you lock up the black vote, you lock up the Latino vote, the minority vote. Like they had all these, the college vote, the young people, but one by one, you just see all of those groups falling out of favor. And
Popping like flies.
yeah, and it's really like the brilliance of it, you know. I know the last 4 years have kind of sucked when you look at prices and the overall climate in the country, and just the way it's been so mismanaged at the border, the invasion. But we would not be sitting here talking about these kind of numbers if the country didn't experience this on the heels of a very successful Trump administration, in his first term. It's a rare, if not completely unique paradigm where you had a very successful populist nationalist term, a stolen election. People got to see right there the difference between the two options. And then on the other side of it, an opportunity to go right back to where it was prior to it. I don't think there's another time in history that you could really compare this to, Zach.
No, no. You know, as difficult as it has been for every single one of us, you know, I mean, this was the only logical thing that I could come away with from the 2020 election. You know, that in order to have the mandate of the entire nation to change the system in the way that was necessary to truly transform this broken system into something that will work and will work for all Americans, we needed to have this difficult time so that uh, everyone would want it. You know, and people would embrace the change that was going to come, because otherwise the future is straight death. You know, it's the destruction of everything you love. And you know, we understood that. I mean, I know a lot of people were pretty salty about 2020, saying Trump abandoned it and blah, blah, blah. You know, but I mean, like he didn't have the support that was necessary. You know, sure, it would have been so easy to just boom, you know, snap your fingers and take over with a military coup or something like that. But what's the optics of that to the rest of the world? You know, I mean, and what about the people in the nation who weren't on board yet? They would write Trump in the history books as some despot, you know, akin to Hitler, as they have tried to do over and over again. And all he's shown is that he cares enough to keep trying and to keep making the case until everybody gets it. Everybody is on the same page. And now here we are. And people are clamoring for Trump to come back. And I truly think this is the only way that it could have been done successfully.
Yeah, no, I agree. I love that too, how you had so many ads like Donald Trump doesn't care about you. He's only out for himself. Like it just makes no sense. Like what does he stand to gain personally from putting himself through this
Nothing.
absolute nightmare of defamation, literal attempts on his life? I mean, he's losing net worth every day that he's in the political scene. It's a completely selfless act to protect the American people from this Marxist infiltration that wants to destroy our way of life forever. And the whole messaging against him makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And it's not working either. I love it. And you could tell they have no message, Zach, because you had Tony Hinchcliffe, I think I'm saying his name right,
Hinchcliffe, yeah, kill
Hinchcliffe
Tony.
Kill Tony at a rally, opening up the rally. He's a roast comedian telling jokes, and he told a joke about Puerto Rico. You guys all know it. That became the number one story in national news for like 3 days straight. Really think about that. How little do they have to sell the American people when that is like their major closing argument in an election campaign, a presidential campaign? Yeah, it's like, oh,
Big fat donut.
you're talking, yeah, and they're trying to say it's like it's racist and vile. He didn't even say anything about Puerto Rican people. He said the island itself is covered in trash, which apparently it is.
It is.
Like,
It totally is.
yeah, like he didn't say anything about Puerto Rican people. It was, and so they spend an entire 3 days just going off on this, and then you have Joe Biden while Kamala Harris is holding her biggest rally in Washington, D.C., usurp the whole event, go on a Zoom call, and call all of Trump supporters garbage. I
Hmm.
mean, it's just, is it on purpose, Zach? Is he sabotaging the campaign on
I
purpose?
think
Is
he
it
is.
just,
Honestly, I think he is. I mean, did you happen to watch the Paul Manafort interview with Tucker?
no?
It's a revelation. Go watch it. It's some really interesting tidbits in there. And, he actually said, first of all, I didn't know he was working on the Trump team again. I had no idea, but apparently he has been. And he said, we prepared for Biden to drop out because that was, an obvious thing that was likely to happen. What we didn't prepare for was Kamala to be the candidate because she was so bad. And I felt the same way. I was like, there's absolutely no way they're going to replace Joe Biden with Kamala Harris because she is the worst possible choice, except for the fact that Kamala Harris and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, they all colluded to force Joe Biden out. They threatened him with the 25th Amendment. He wrote the resignation letter on Sunday. And then on Monday, he said, guess what, Obama? F you. I'm going to endorse my VP. You're not going to get your open convention, and you're not going to be able to choose who the next person is. Because as soon as I say I endorse Kamala Harris, that's who's going to be the candidate. And that's exactly what he did. And Paul Manafort said that was his gift to the Trump team because he was so angry. His old Scranton Joe's Irish temper coming up and making him do that so that Obama was screwed. They couldn't choose somebody else. It had to be Kamala Harris. And then they had to go all in. That's why Obama and Michelle didn't endorse Kamala right away, because I think that they were still trying to wrangle to see if it would be possible to do an open convention. But then Kamala Harris, she's a conniving narcissist herself. She went around to all of the electors and essentially forced them to pledge fealty to her. And so there you go. That's it.
There's this amazing poetic justice to it that the DEI choice, right? Like nobody wanted Kamala Harris. It's evident in her 2020 presidential campaign. She didn't get a single vote. She never polled over 1%. She's universally disliked. She was chosen for vice president because of the color of her skin and her gender. That was it, and there was absolutely no other redeeming qualities to this woman. And now they're stuck with her. They made this bed based on their own self-destructive ideology, and they've done everything. She's had every institutional advantage you could hope for at her side. The mega donors, the entire media apparatus. all working in unison to revamp her image as I don't know, but she's so inept and untalented, and just dumb, honestly, that all the media help in the world, all the edited interviews, all the it couldn't protect herself and the true nature of her from the American people. And not only is she losing this campaign, but she is sending the core of the Democrat Party to the right, or the Democrat voter base to the right.
Hmm.
How bad of a candidate she is, I think, could be a generational mistake. I mean, you're talking about losing voters that may never come back, because they're going to vote Trump. I believe Trump is going to have an extremely successful next term. I think he's going to set up the country for, a few more cycles beyond this. And as the concept of populism and Trump's economics as that concept continues to be proven as successful, how do you come back to this leftist ideology that people just saw destroy the economy, inflation, the border, and come back on that? Like this is such an interesting paradigm shifting moment where I really I don't know how they survive this, Zach. Like I
I,
it's
I don't think they do. I mean, and I don't think that they can return to it because we've tried it. Okay, we had the experiment. We did the DEI stuff. We did multiculturalism. We did unrestricted migration. We have shown through practice that what they've tried to do doesn't work. And it's not only here in America, but you have populist movements that are rising up in other countries all around the world. And with the return of Donald Trump and the resurrection of the United States of America, setting all of these things aright and making sure that people understand that it is not possible to live in this way that the Democrats have been trying to force us into, it's going to have rippling effects. And I think that it's going to empower people all around the world. And I think that we're not just looking at an American renaissance. I think that we're looking at a renaissance for humanity and a renaissance for leadership by the people, of the people, for the people in pretty much all countries around the world. This is going to represent a true shift, a sea change in governance around this planet.
Man, I hope so. I hope so. And we always knew like America was the tip of the spear when it comes to populism and nationalism, and the idea of sovereign nations, people controlling their own destinies essentially. Um, so I think you're right. America is this election cycle. It's not just our country. It's going to have major effects throughout the world. And man, it can't come soon enough. Speaking of
Yeah.
the garbage comments, have you seen the attempts to alter history and what he said? Like they're trying to add like this apostrophe. The media is just scrambling to not let this be the next basket of deplorables moment. It's as if
I
they
saw
had.
that.
Go ahead.
I saw they like edited the transcript,
Hmm.
which they have done quite frequently, which is actually illegal. Like I mean, like that's an official record, and like what the president says that has to be kept in that original form. And by changing that, I mean, it's a real sort of Big Brother 1984 whitewashing of history. And I know that there's been a lot of conversations, Karine Jean-Pierre denying what he said, others denying what he said. But then there have also been others in like the leftist talking head sphere who have like gravitated to it. They have latched onto it, and they said that Biden didn't go far enough. Like we are garbage, and he needs to lean into it. But I haven't seen any clips. If you've got some clips, I would love to see how they're trying to rewrite history on this.
There's one that's pretty good. I gotta find it if you just give me a second. But then you also had Mark Cuban today come out and say that there's no like intelligent, strong women that vote for Donald Trump. Basically insulting. Yeah, yeah.
Ooh.
I mean, and it's so crazy to me, right? Because they sit there and they talk about, oh, it's such a hateful rhetoric at the Trump rally. It's a rally of hate, rally of hate, rally of hate, which anyone that watches it is, you can see that there's absolutely no truth to that whatsoever. But then you have these moments, from their own mouths, they actually do despise you.
Mhm.
If you are even just the slightest bit right of center in this country, they actually do hate your guts. And they'll sit there and they'll talk about unity or attempt to, like, say the company line to put on this thin veil of we're the altruistic party, but they don't. They hate your guts, and they let it slip every once in a while. And right now they can't even stay together to keep that covered up. Like you said, you have people actually kind of selling them out on this, or just through their own anger and hatred, saying what you said. Oh, you didn't go far enough. They are garbage.
Hmm.
It's a pretty interesting dynamic. But here's a clip of CNN talking about this, and this pretty much sums up what you're hearing universally. They all repeat the same shit. But here you go. Oh, I gotta do this real fast. There we go.
Say though,
With
Bakari,
certain demographics.
he was in his house, the White House. He was in his house doing this, and the reporting is that there are places that he can be useful, but he's not everywhere like you might expect a sitting president to be for his vice president.
I don't know that I would expect this president to be everywhere in this moment. I mean, look, a critical element, any coach will tell you, any CEO will tell you, a critical element of running a team and winning is assessing the strengths and weaknesses of your team members and making sure you allocate them in the right way. Joe Biden has never been a big arena speaker. He's never been the most fluid speaker. And by the way, as someone who had a stutter growing up, it's very obvious to me that there's an apostrophe at the end of supporters there. He was referring to the garbage spewed by supporters, not simply the supporters themselves. But Joe Biden has been on the campaign trail. He's best getting ice cream in Maryland.
I, I'll stop. But as someone that grew up with this stutter, it was fairly obvious to me that there was an apostrophe there. Zach, you can't. The level of bullshit. I mean, you listen to the clip. You listen to the clip. There's no stutter. He didn't stutter once. Like this idea that the Joe Biden stutter is the reason why he looks like such an idiot anytime he's reading a teleprompter or trying to communicate is such a weird cop out. And then in this situation, I mean, it's on video. You could watch it. People have slowed it down. He said what he said. He said what he said.
Yeah, he did. He did. And it's not the first time. I mean, I don't know why they're even trying to deny it. I mean, Joe Biden has a long and storied history of attacking Donald Trump and his supporters. I mean, he said all kinds of things about us on numerous occasions. So this is in character with him.
It is. It is. And again, they were calling it a Nazi rally in MSG, right? I mean, so you're saying that all of his supporters are Nazis too,
Mhm.
right? I mean, like, which is, I don't know, probably worse than saying that they're garbage. Neither one is a nice thing to say, but so like the idea that they're running away from this as if they would never, Joe Biden would never, or we would never, be that divisive. It's absurd. Like we listen to you guys on a daily basis. We hear the shit that you say. The only reason they're so freaked out about this is because they just made Tony's joke the biggest story in the country or at least in the mainstream media. I don't know if anyone really cares about it outside of their little bubble, but they made that like such a big deal. And then Joe Biden goes and just like, hey, they're all garbage. It's like, all right, all the goodwill that you might have accumulated, and all your pearl clutching and belly aching over that joke just immediately disappeared the second he opened his mouth and said that.
Yeah, Tony Hinchcliffe was talking about a measurable environmental catastrophe on an island. Joe Biden was talking about more than half of the country, maybe 80% of the country.
Yeah, exactly. And here's what was really interesting to me. So Kamala Harris was asked about these comments on the tarmac, right? The same day or shortly after, or maybe it was the next day. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Point is, she was asked directly about it, and she didn't condemn it. She just said, "Oh, I think he clarified what he meant." And obviously, I wouldn't criticize someone based on how they vote, which is like not true. But but she says that for someone that's so desperate to differentiate herself from Joe Biden, right? She wants to be seen as a candidate of change and a new generation of leadership, which is hysterical. Uh, why wouldn't she just come out and be like, Joe Biden really messed up? I don't support what he said. He should have never said that. That was a really awful thing for the president of the United States to say. I agree with a lot of his policies or this, that, or but that was over the line. Like, why wouldn't who's advising this woman? Like, you would think that she would bury him there and it would create at least some level of, okay, maybe they're not, being pulled by the exact same, puppet master, but that she's just incapable of creating any space.
Because it would be an admission of guilt. I mean, she would have to admit that something was said. I mean, their modus operandi is to deflect and obfuscate and project when they can. And by admitting that something that was said is exactly what we heard, then she's going to basically implicate herself in that, because it's the same way that she can't discuss anything that was done during the administration that shouldn't have been done that way. She can't think of a single thing that she would have done differently. Like, come on, really? You can't think of a single fault in your own person. Okay, come on, give me a break. I mean, they cannot admit that they've done anything wrong, because then they have to explain why they did what they did. And their reasonings for any of this stuff is indefensible. There's no returning from it. The only thing they can do is deny. Oh, you didn't hear what you said, what you thought you said. You heard something completely different, he totally meant something different. You're just misremembering things. That's fake news.
At what point in the campaign did Hillary Clinton use the basket of deplorables line? Do you remember? Was it around the same point, or was it a little earlier, maybe?
It was earlier, and it was at a rally that she was giving.
Yeah, I'm just curious what kind of impact this will actually have as far as turnout. I don't know if this will motivate, people that were on the fence to vote to come out. I'm just kind of.
I don't know. I mean, it might, though, because I mean, like, there's got to be some like reasonable moderates out there who have like bought into the rhetoric that, Trump's divisive language, I just the way that he talks. And if they've got any honesty in their body at all, then they'll hear Joe Biden saying that and be like, oh, wow, 24 hours ago, I was told to be up in arms because a comedian made a joke about the garbage on Puerto Rico that ABC News and PBS and NPR all reported on. Now, Joe Biden is calling Trump supporters garbage. I mean, plenty of those people will agree with Joe Biden, and they'll be like, yes, he needs to say more. These people are garbage. We need to call them out. They're fascists. But I don't know that it's going to be an overwhelming number. But I think that there has to be some people out there that it will matter to.
I think so. I mean, if nothing else, I do think it'll motivate. It will motivate people to really make sure they get out there and cast a vote, and maybe places where it'll be most impactful are places that aren't necessarily competitive states, right? You run up the score a bit in the deep red states. You have a good turnout in deep blue states, and then you start looking at a nice potential at a popular vote victory for Donald Trump, and I think that would be so huge, Zach, if he wins the popular vote this time around. They're really going to have no defense of many of their normal talking points, and also the psychological effect of that on like the true believers on the left, because I think that a lot of them think that they're in the majority, that that their ideology, because all the major institutions back them and they tell them that they're altruistic and the way they see the world is correct and right and just, and it's just the fringe right that is the problem, and the electoral college is unfairly overrepresenting the minority, and that this is, if he comes out and he wins by 2 or 3 points in the popular vote, all of a sudden there's people have to look around and be like, wait a minute, like we're actually in the minority. Like the majority of people disagree with us.
I would love that.
Well, yeah, but like that's gotta make them more open-minded, right?
I don't know. I mean, people that are dug in to their programming tend to be like all in. I mean, it takes a lot to break somebody out of that sort of, lifetime of programming. I mean, everybody here at one point had like that original red pill moment where they were like, oh my God, question something that I knew was something else yesterday. Now it's been proven to me that it is something different. And the reason I believed it to be one way was because I was told that it was that way. So now they need to reconcile everything else that they have in their mind and in their body of programming. And I mean, for some people, it takes a lot. I mean, think about 9/11. Okay. Like that's an easy one for a lot of people. And, plenty of people, even though they maybe saw the puffs of smoke from the squibs, or they knew the rate of free fall for an object to hit the ground, or they knew about the construction of the World Trade Center, or they knew the melting point of steel. I mean, none of those things were enough until perhaps they learn about Building 7 and Larry Silverstein saying, so we had such tremendous loss of life. So I said, it's time. We need to pull it. So I said, pull it. And they did. Okay, there you go. That's the owner of the World Trade Center saying on a video that he ordered the controlled demolition of World Trade Center 7. And guess what? It came down at the same rate of free fall speed as the towers themselves. Reconcile. Okay.
Yeah.
Only at that point are people going to really start even being able to think about it. Now, maybe that will come for many people a little bit later on when people start getting arrested. We'll see.
Yeah, hopefully. Going back to the garbage thing, how epic was it seeing Donald Trump? I mean, within what, 24 hours, less than that, show up to the rally, like in a garbage truck, wearing the orange vest. I mean, we'll never see anything like this again, Zach. This is the most, like, going from the mugshot to the image right here behind me, the fist in the air, to him at McDonald's, serving French fries. Yeah, you got it up there too. Now to him showing up in a garbage truck wearing a reflective vest. I mean, it's incredible. This guy is like nobody else will ever see again running for the presidency.
He's brilliant. He's a meme machine, a marketing genius. And yes, I think you're right. Donald Trump is a true rare breed. And I don't know that we'll ever be able to recapture, what we've had during these years with him, running the country or trying to get back to that point. And I can only hope that we can, approach it at some point in the future. And I truly do believe that with our collective effort, when he returns to Washington, D.C., we can set the nation up for success and, several generations of continuing success. But, it's the idea of the fourth turning. Hard times create hard men. Hard men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. And it just rinse and repeat over and over again. If we can somehow overcome that pattern, then we could set America up for success forever. But big problem has been that even during those good times, we had those bad actors working in the background to suppress the progression of humanity. And suppress our ability to better ourselves and to make things great in so many different ways. The suppression of technology, or the suppression of knowledge, or the suppression of our ability to even keep ourselves healthy. There's so many different things. If we can roll all of those bad things away and really focus our attention on educating people and giving them the tools that they need to be successful, instead of turning them into mindless automatons to worship the state, then I think that we've got a real opportunity.
No, I couldn't agree more. The imagery of him dressed as a garbage man, dancing to the Village People on stage in Wisconsin last night after the rally. They sit there, they act like this guy is Hitler, evil incarnate, but you look, he's just having fun. Like he's joyous, he's lighthearted, like he's the vibes, like it's just such a contradiction the way they talk about him. If you just watch him interact with his supporters and the way he doesn't take himself super seriously, it's so in contradiction of everything they try to tell about him. That's what I think was so genius about the McDonald's thing and the and the garbage truck and the vest thing is it just that imagery alone just it debunks hours upon hours upon hours of lies and defamation and propaganda weaponized against them. Just that 30 seconds of him, doing this, wearing that goofy vest. It's like, oh, this guy's not,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like he's not Stalin. He's just a guy having a good time trying to, do right by the people he loves.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. He truly is a special person. I love him.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Let's take care of a couple of sponsors before we head to the home stretch of the broadcast today. Rise Attire, riseattireusa.com is our first one. Shout out to Max and Rise. I know they're out there listening in the pill chat, so we'll be right back.
Hey there, Badlanders. Do you love Badlands as much as you hate communism? Do you want patriotic apparel that's not made in China, but also won't make you look like a dork? Well, then we've got just the thing for you. Introducing an entirely new line of official Badlands gear made in partnership with the culture warriors at Rise Attire and Rise INTL. With 4 brand new collections of original artwork across a wide range of products to choose from. Spread the signal with deep-cut symbols from Devolution lore to the ghosts in the machine on the front lines of the Psy War. Wrap yourself in America the Beautiful with the warm tones and textures of Badlands National Park. To the eye of the storm in Mount Rushmore. This is premium quality streetwear, custom made to order from scratch just for you by the Patriots at our East Peoria, Illinois facility. Don't wait. Explore the entire store and order your new gear today at badlandsmedia.tv/rise. Represent Badlands boldly and proudly. This culture war ain't gonna win itself.
At Tulip Blooms, we believe in more than just skincare. We believe in freedom. We believe in natural products made by Americans, for Americans, using nature's finest ingredients to help you feel your best, naturally. Each Tulip Blooms product is carefully crafted with pure organic ingredients, no chemicals, no compromises, just clean, natural skincare you can trust. Our mission? To support your well-being while standing for the values that make this country great. We know what matters to you: freedom, family, and a healthy way of life. That's why every purchase at tulipblooms.shop supports American jobs and a brand that values your freedom. Join the movement. Support a company that believes what you believe in. Visit tulipblooms.shop today. Tulip Blooms, natural skincare for patriots.
All right. Big thank you to both Rise Attire and Tulip Bloom for sponsoring the show today, guys. Make sure you go check them out. Also, again, if you're watching on the Badlands Rumble, please give us a thumbs up if you haven't already. If you're watching on pill.net, please red pill the show and give it a repost wherever you're watching. Share the link. That's a big one. Thank you to Lucy the dog. Lucy the dog. All right, took me a second there. Thank you for the Rumble rant. Says the Puerto Ricans celebrated the joke with a parade for Trump. Yeah, again, like the fact that they tried to make that the issue that was gonna like break the Trump campaign just shows again how absolutely detached they are from reality, and it shows how little of a message they actually have for the American people. And you could also see that in like the whole Joe Rogan situation, Zach, right? Because you have now, I don't know if you saw JD Vance just came out with his Rogan. I listened to the first couple hours of it while I was getting ready for the show today. Trump was on there on Friday last week. He's trying to get Kamala Harris on, but Kamala Harris wants it in like a sterilized environment, limited to an hour with her people in the room. Like she wants to really kind of control the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And if she was a normal human being with real ideas that could stand up to questions and follow-ups, she would be racing to Texas to sit there with Joe Rogan and put herself in front of his tens of millions of people that watch his show. But that's not the case because well, we saw what happened with Brett Baer. I mean, how long would she last with
Oh
with
my
Joe
God.
Rogan?
You know, it would be a massacre. And, that's exactly why she won't sit down to do it. She was actually in Texas. She could have went to Austin. She could have sat down, even if she wasn't going to do the full like 2+ hours. But she wasn't going to take that chance. I mean, if she sat down with Joe Rogan, he would ask her questions that she wouldn't want to answer and she wouldn't be able to answer. And every single clip of her like picking her hands up and trying to formulate a sentence that was a cohesive narrative and being unable to do it, that would be clipped. It would be all over the internet and it would be done. And I mean, Trump going on Joe Rogan was a revelation. Okay. Like, not because like I listened to Joe Rogan, but because so many people listen to Joe Rogan. And, Joe Rogan had said previously that he had no interest in interviewing Trump. And I knew that that was going to change as soon as Butler happened. And especially with President Trump going on all of those other podcasts that are part of like the Rogan sphere of influence. I mean, and he just knocked them all out of the park. And JD Vance was so good on Theo Vaughn. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing JD on Joe's program because
He's incredible, man. Like
I bet. I mean,
yeah,
he's so skilled. I mean, he's so intelligent and he's so relatable and he's just a normal guy. I truly feel that he is a worthy heir apparent to Donald Trump's legacy. And that's what we need is we need a younger Donald Trump, somebody who's going to pick up the mantle of America first, carry it forward, and continue to do what Donald Trump was doing. And JD, I think a lot of people were worried because he was a freshman. I think that's good because he didn't have a whole bunch of time in DC to get corrupted. He
yeah.
comes from the real world. Okay. I mean, he knows, what it's like to have your life and your family's life plagued by the issues that have been created by people like Bill Clinton and Democrats of history. And he wants to solve those problems. I mean, the reason problems that we have in America that have existed for a long time have not been solved is because there is no political will to solve them because it's more convenient for them to exist because they aid the elite. They aid the control oligarchs that run Washington, D.C. They want us to be impoverished. They want us to be addicted. They want us to be at each other's throats because when we're at each other's throats fighting over things at the end of the day that truly don't matter because, they're just these bullshit bickering issues, we're not paying attention to the real problems that are plaguing this country. And, as far as I'm concerned, the biggest problem is the people running Washington, D.C. It's the people who are intentionally destroying our country and keeping us bothered and away from the real problems that we have that could truly be fixed if there was political will to do it. And we're creating that political will because we're letting them know that this is simply not acceptable, and it hasn't been for a very long time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I couldn't agree more on JD as far as a potential successor. I see Rye Guy says, let's slow our roll on JD in 2028. And I don't completely disagree with that. There's a lot to happen between now and then, and it is kind of getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. But I'll say this, JD is fearless, it seems like, when it comes to standing up to the mainstream media. Every Sunday, you look at the clips, he does the rounds in the lines, then he goes on all these shows that hate his guts, and he does not back down. He does not give in like many Republicans do. He actually says what needs to be said. But he's not as polarizing as Donald Trump
No.
either, right? So I feel like, you needed Donald Trump this time around because it was a huge hidden vote for Donald Trump. The Trump or bust voter. You hear Rich Barris talk about it all the time. You needed Donald Trump to shift things, to get in there and really kind of change the trajectory of American politics. But beyond him, you need someone that can carry those policies in the overall mindset forward, but doesn't immediately emotionally trigger such a large portion of the country too. And I think JD Vance is the perfect combination of understanding what the movement's all about, the skill of dealing with the media, being able to present the ideas, and coming off as just a normal everyday American while he does it. And you
Hmm.
and you can see it too in the polling and the trajectory of the race. Donald Trump selecting JD Vance as his running mate, you could really see things take off at that point, because it was a direct signal to the establishment that he wasn't going to give them their Marco Rubio, or
Hmm.
their establishment check on what he wants to do. It was a huge middle finger to the entire warmongering neocon class in Washington, D.C., because J.D. Vance is very anti-war. I mean, it was also a big message, I think, to the grassroots aspect of the America First movement, the people that have had Donald Trump's back from the very beginning and really want to see his vision carried out, that this time around, we're not going to surround ourselves with a bunch of people that just want to subvert, put the brakes on, and run out the clock on what we want to do. To me, it was a direct signal that this time around, like, we mean business. We're going to get shit done. And it starts with his understudy, so to speak, with JD Vance. So
Yeah.
I love the pick, and yeah, you got to see him on Rogan. I watched the first 2 hours. He kills it. Like, the conversation, it's like two buddies having a conversation. Like, it shows a completely different side of a politician than you typically ever see. He's very real, very well spoken, and very relatable, I think, is the big thing. And I think he's going to win over a lot of people, um, with that interview and beyond, over the next 4 years. I think he's going to become a very, very popular vice president. So I love the pick. Zach, I know you got to get going here, to do your broadcast. So any final thoughts you have? And yeah, anything else you want to say before you leave? Go ahead.
Just make sure you vote and eat some candy because it's Halloween. Okay. All right. I'm going live. We'll see you soon. Have a great time.
All right, have a great show, Zach.
Peace.
All right, there he goes. Zach Payne of redpill78news.com, going live at 5 p.m. here in a few minutes over on his channel. I'm sure he's gonna have some fun with all this stuff going on here, and it was fun catching up with him. Shout out to Frankie Val. He couldn't make it. He's doing Halloween stuff with his little girl today. So I hope they're having a ton of fun. I know he's even starting his own show a little bit later than normal today because of all the Halloween stuff that he's doing with his daughter. So I hope those guys are having a blast. And yeah, make sure you check out quitefrankly.tv as well. I don't know what time exactly he's going live today, but normally it's from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern time, Monday through Friday. My name is Adel Nero, and those of you that would like to follow me, I'd love to earn your follow, especially talking to you guys over on Badlands Media. You can follow me on Twitter at 412anon87 if you want to catch me over there. I'm also have a Rumble channel at 412 Productions. Pill.net is really where we live, though. That's the comfy bunker, our free speech, grassroots live streaming platform. If you haven't checked it out, you really ought to. But Pill.net is a great place. That's where we do a lot of exclusive content with my show. The second hour every day is exclusively on Pill.net. And yeah, I hope to see you guys over there. The channel over there is also 412 Productions. So again, really hope to earn your follow. But that's going to do it for Taking It Back. We're going to stay live here for on 412 Productions over on Pilled. We're going to celebrate 6 years. We started this operation, this channel. I mean, it's gone through a few different platforms and branding changes, but we started this in late October 2018. It's just crazy to think that I've been doing this behind the mic now for 6 years. It's crazy. I never thought it would go this long and turn into what it has, but I'm so grateful for the experience and all the time we've all spent together. Some of you have been with me from the very beginning during the Patriot Soapbox days, going over the Q drops and having a ton of fun with that, and have been with me the whole time. Some of you guys are a bit later to the fam. Either way, I appreciate all of you tuning in and being part of what we've created here. But we're gonna do a little 6-year celebration of the channel here exclusively on pilled.net at 412 Productions. So I hope you guys will come over and be part of that. Those of you watching on 412 Productions Rumble channel, I've got a link to pilled.net in the description. I'm going to throw it in all the Rumble live chats over on Badlands, on my channel, and over on D Live as well, to make it easy for you guys. Or again, it's really simple. Just head over to pilled.net and type in 412 Productions to the to the search bar, and you will see us pop right on up. But yeah, so that's what we're gonna do for at least an hour, maybe a bit longer. We'll just kind of see how the calls come in and how everything flows. But I'm looking forward to hearing from a bunch of our old friends here in a little bit. So again, thank you guys so much for tuning in to Taking It Back. We're gonna wrap that up and head on over to Pilled for the after party. For Zach Payne of redpill78news.com. And again, shout out to Frankie Val, quite frankly, .tv. My name is Adel Nero, 412 Productions. This has been Taking It Back, syndicated by our good friends over on Badlands Media. I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your Thursday if you're not going to come over and hang out with us, and look forward to seeing you all next week. For those of you that will be, we'll be right back.